Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And a very good evening to you. This is Newsline Prime. We're broadcasting live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Clambo. And this is our temporary surroundings. We'll get back to our usual studios soon, no doubt. But this evening we've got an update on the progress that the hotel and the leisure, the tourism sector, how they're doing post 21/4. And who better than that familiar face on our network now, Mr. Johanne Jayaratne, who is also the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourist Development Authority, and is right here in the studio. Good evening to you, Johanne.
Good evening, Faraz. Thank you for having me.
Great pleasure. Tell us, how are you doing? How's it all going?
Better than expected for us. We are very optimistic. The numbers seem to be picking up better than what we had anticipated. Just post incident, we had the numbers had dropped down to below 1,000. We were looking at about 900, 800.
Those are the 1,000 arrivals.
Arrivals, the tourist arrivals.
Tourist.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say that as of Sunday's numbers, the last Sunday's numbers were 3,762 to be exact. So the trajectory is moving in the right direction, and by now we should have surpassed the 4,000 number. And I also want to add to that, by the end of June, we had once again passed the 1 million mark, to 1,000,008 tourist arrivals for the year of 2019. So I'm very confident that volume-wise, that we will surpass 2 million
by when?
Tourists by the end of the year.
Okay.
So
you've already gone past 1 million.
We've gone past 1 million.
Okay.
So last year we had 2.33 million arrivals.
Okay.
So this year we will be close. I don't think we will be at 2.3, but we'll be at 2.2, 2.1 plus at least. So yeah, those are the numbers that we are looking at right now.
And the people coming in, they're coming in for the product. They're coming in.
Yeah, it's business as usual. The same demographic is coming in from the same countries. India. In May it was India, the UK, and Australia. In June it was India, Australia, and the UK.
Right.
So those numbers are shifting as far as the countries are concerned. But it's the same demographic, and it's really business as usual.
Great. And what have you? How's the packages doing? Is that why the numbers are going up now? The
packages, the promotional activity, we have not let down on the promotions at all. We've just given it a slight twist given the incident, but nevertheless the volume of promotions remain the same. Right. It's a little bit more aggressive, if you may. We did a good rollout in India along with MasterCard last, I think it was early June, and that's showing some results now. We also had some movement in China, some promotional activity in China.
How is this advertising being done? Is it television, radio?
No, we are on ground in India, road shows, interviews, that type of thing. Right. So we are pretty much on ground in these countries that we're trying to attract. We will probably be rolling out some programs in Europe as well in the very near future. So the aggression that we are showing with regard to the marketing and the promotions remains the same. And at the same time, from the tourism infrastructure here back home, we are strengthening it, and we are supporting the industry as much as we can, along with the central bank, by offering these concessions and moratoriums and stuff like that, just to keep everyone going.
How does the payback work? Who's paying the banks then?
The industry will pay the banks, but we are also putting a program together, we meaning the Treasury, along with the central bank, where there will be some sort of a credit insurance scheme put together, where it's underwritten by the government essentially, just so that the banks don't have to take the kind of risks that they are anticipating because of this. So just trying to balance out the risk, if you may. Right.
And what are the price reductions? I saw something in the press about Cabinet having approved some reductions, is it, in the costings?
Are you referring to the aviation?
Yes.
Yes. That was a long-standing need without this crisis in place. Yeah. The ground handling rates in Sri Lanka are the highest in the region. Right. The fuel costs are also highest in the region. And the embarkation costs, and I stand to be corrected on this, are probably the highest in the world, definitely in the region.
At $50?
At $50. And with the last budget, it was going to be taken up to $60. So
are they kind of killing the golden goose?
If you were to look at it collectively, it's certainly not helping tourism. And if you are going to be a tourism centered, centric nation.
I can't think of any other place that I've been where they charge us so much to leave the country or so on.
Could possibly be. Like I said, I stand to be corrected on this, but we are probably the highest in the world, but definitely in the region. So I mean, collectively, it's a considerable cost to a traveler coming in here. So to have these prices reduced, even post conflict, is a very good move. And
sorry, John, but some of the charges levied on all airlines, like they're done because the national airline already enjoys a sort of monopoly position, and it's been given to them on lease for X amount of years. So how does that work?
Well, to be quite candid, it's not the best business practice. Ideally, we should probably have multiple ground handlers, given the size, maybe another one more, so that there's some kind of a competitive spirit out there, and airlines can choose, and that will kind of control the pricing model.
Are Sri Lankan airlines stuck in the woods about this thing? Or are they being pliable?
I think they will be pliable going forward, because
is this what the cabinet, the cabinet of ministers decided? That is that also part of the reduction in the aviation fuel, in embarkation tax, and there were two other things.
Embarkation, fuel, and the ground handling. Those are the three.
So the ground handling is where is the spoke in the wheel the airline, national airline?
Yes, that and fuel. Those have been the biggest contentions that airlines have been dealing with for years.
Because of course the fuel, I don't know the figures for jet aviation, but out here in the real world, at the pump, the prices that the consumer pays is loaded with a whole series of taxes.
Taxation is the biggest issue. So those things have to be looked at very carefully. I don't exactly know the breakdown, but whatever the case might be, they have to come and be on par with Chennai. That's the median that we have found to be most plausible at this point.
How does our fuel prices compare in the region?
The most expensive.
Really?
Most expensive in the region, So the thing is, for us, very interesting, because because of the fuel prices and the load factors being low, post-incident, most airlines, tanker their fuel for the return trip as well. So CPC should look at this from a perspective of, it might be better to sell some fuel out of Sri Lanka, even at a discounted price, than not having sales at all.
Isn't that the same model that the national airline should be following?
Probably, but I mean, since their home base is in Sri Lanka, they don't have much of a choice. But the thing is...
But no, I mean in terms of the seats, because the national airline is being subsidized every day by members of the public through the Treasury, obviously. And so it appears that if they are not reducing their price and getting occupancy up, as in seats, bums on seats, if you like, then they need to reduce the prices.
Well, what I'm hearing, and this is a fact, the load factors that Sri Lanka is enjoying right now is not too shabby. At the very beginning, post incident, I mean, they did have some problem with the load factor. All airlines did. But today it's not the case. So the load factors are beginning to build up. Airlines have now come back to their normal schedule, because there were some cancellations on frequencies, or a suspension of frequencies, I should say. So those numbers have now come up with some airlines, and we want to see that happening, and that being normalized. With that, the load factors will increase, and at that point, they should seriously start looking at discounting the ticket prices and attract more people in. Because what we need for us at this point is the volume. Now, we will recover from a volume standpoint, but the financial recovery for the industry will take a little bit longer.
I see. And what about, are you finding that foreign airlines are showing signs of supporting us?
Absolutely.
Or are they thinking, well, this is not making us any money, we've got shareholders to think about, and then do you think they'll be cancelling?
No, I really don't think so. The only airline that actually suspended complete operations was Russia Air, which is a Russian airline coming out of Moscow, but they commenced in July as well. and they will probably add some frequencies from what I hear. I'm sorry, not Russia. Yes, Russia, they did in July, and they will probably increase frequencies, and then China Eastern pulled out some frequencies, which they will be recommencing in September. So these are all good indications.
Right.
Emirates and Oman Air, they've come back with their regular frequencies. Emirates is flying 4 days a week now.
And are they being given any concessions in terms of landing?
Not as of this moment, but once these discounts are taken into consideration, I'm hoping that will happen within the next week or so.
Right.
Yeah, so that should reflect on there.
Do you get the feeling sometimes that it's been a long time coming, because this happened 21/4?
It should have happened much sooner, but then considering that I've been fighting for this, so the industry has been fighting for this for the last 12 years that I know of, I'm just glad that it's happening now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And these arrival figures, these are just tourists. Does that mean non-Sri Lankan passport holders?
Correct.
Okay. On average, what do you think they're spending? How many days are they spending in the country?
On average, the average numbers are between 10 and 11 nights. And today I don't see any reduction in those numbers per se. Your European traveler typically is a 10 to 11 day, and your spend rate is a little low because of all the discounts that the hotels are offering and all that. But as far as the strategic plan for tourism goes, what we're trying to achieve is a spend rate of $210 a night.
210.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that how are the hoteliers, how are the players in this industry reacting? Are they sort of holding their heads in their hands and saying, "Oh my God, what have we done here now?"
Yeah, it's all over
because
the map.
Interest rates are high.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern. But there's what I'm really thankful for is that the industry is very optimistic. They're very resilient. It's a small guy who's actually hurting right now. The 10 to 12 room type of thing. And but there are packages out there. There are moratoriums. The Development Authority, the Tourism Development Authority, is actually putting a cabinet paper up next week, hopefully, where we will put a moratorium on the TDL, the Tourist Development Levy, which is 1%. So that should help the industry a little bit further. So there are various ways and means that we have introduced into this whole thing, so that we can kind of keep the industry going.
Now, we being in the media, we get approached for all sorts of things, and I met an operator of transport services within a local, and he was telling me that he's having difficulty applying for the benefits, this moratorium, because obviously he's got a fleet of vehicles that are under lease, and he ought to be making 200,000 a day just to service his loan. And he says that the difficulty is that as an operator, he's not registered with the tourism board or the authority. He's actually registered with an agent, and the agent in turn is registered. And so when he goes to his bank, they're saying, well, you're not registered. Is there a way that he can overcome?
Absolutely. They just have to go online, make the application, and it'll be approved within a matter of 24 hours. And maybe this entity can just come over to the authority, and all that is in place. And there are no penalties, there are no fines. They can just come in.
So if they're operating for 10 years
doesn't matter.
Under the radar,
Doesn't matter.
They now want to be registered because they can get some moratorium, then
we are encouraging everybody who is unlicensed, who falls into that unlicensed, the informal category, if you may, to bring them into our fold and have them registered, issue the licenses, a provisional license. We give them 3 months in the case of a hotel or a homestay or whatever to meet the requirements. But we will issue them the license, which they can then take to a bank and go through the whole process.
Any plans to ease the registration process? I met a chauffeur who's registered as a driver, but if he wants to register as a guide, apparently he needs to go through some form of training course.
There is a training course.
Yes. Now his complaint is that this blessed thing is during the day, and that means then he has to take time off, and it's catch-22 because there's hardly any business, and then if you have to go to school or college to learn these things, then and he doesn't have the money to fund that gap. Any plans for having it maybe online or maybe in after hours, weekends, who knows? Any other plans?
That's a very good point. I will definitely address that next week, because we can probably introduce a challenge exam type of thing and then do it that way, or maybe we can, like you said, we can do it online, but it has to be some sort of an exam so that we know that they have the wherewithal to actually be a guide.
Yes.
That the quality is, and that the quality assurance has to be there.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you also need to be practical and
of course. I will definitely be taking that up. Yes.
And then, of course, the registration process for the what you call the informal sector, it's online and it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
It is.
Right.
Yeah. The only time that there might be some physical intervention will be with the physical inspection of the premises, if it's in the case of a hotel. But like I said, we will issue a provisional license, and they have 3 months to adhere to whatever the requirements are, which is online, and then we will send an inspection team when they're ready, and we'll go through that process. So.
How does this work? If somebody is operating a guest house or a homestay, and it's just to supplement their income or take advantage of this wonderful idea from the tourist authority, which is the homestay unit, so that travelers can actually experience Sri Lankan life. How does it work? Does the householder need to go for a change of use? What about in terms of local taxation and that kind of thing?
I will not be able to get into the specifics of this for us, because I'm not well versed with all of that as of now. But the process is very simple. It's just a question of bringing some formality to the business operation, so that we have some idea of the quality. That is the most essential thing in this, because I have physically seen instances where people would just add a room for a homestay and it would not have the basic amenities, and that's a problem. So as good as the concept is, the quality and the standards have to be maintained, because that's where the experience really matters. Cleanliness, essentially, So those things have to be looked at very carefully, and that's why we want to bring them into the formal whole, if you may.
Right. And in between all this, overall, how is the security? How are you guys taking care of the security situation?
Security, we don't directly get involved in it, but we have the military, the Tri-Forces and the police doing what they're doing, and they're doing an excellent job, and my compliments to all of them. What we are also seeing is a very, very slow pullback of physical presence, and the intelligence, strengthening itself as time goes on. I think that is the key to this.
Because we, on our travels here, there and everywhere, we can't help but seeing even some in one instance, a hotel had armed forces people in uniform walking around the hotel, inside the hotel, and that's a little bit off-putting, because people are concerned. As much as they're concerned in restaurants and so on, if they see somebody coming in with a backpack, people do tend to panic. And I do notice that there are stickers now on doors and entrances saying, don't bring this because we don't allow you to bring a backpack in, and so on. So how's the security situation doing?
It's very stable. It's normalized to a great extent. My request to the viewers and to Sri Lankans is to get out there and lead a normal life, and go to these hotels, go to these restaurants, and that's the only way that we can tell the world that we are okay.
There are some Sri Lankan people who say, well, we are now getting the service from the hotels, because previously they didn't really care about the local tourists, and so now they feel a bit like the young Americans in Donald Trump's America, who went for Donald Trump's clarion call, America First. So it looks like the Sri Lankan travelers are now getting treated well. But this sort of reverse racism, if you like, is that something that, because I do see boards along the south, I don't know, I must go and have a look to see if they're still there, because it'd be interesting, because there are places out there, especially in Ella as well, where it just says foreigners only.
Yes, I personally experienced one of these instances down in Mirissa, and I didn't quite realize it until my wife pointed it out to me.
Right.
So these are things that have to be actually addressed for us, because that is not on. It's just not on. So we need to bring up...
Any laws, do you know, that we can prosecute them?
I don't know if there's a specific law against it, but if there isn't, there should be. And we will definitely use our enforcement units to make sure that they keep their eyes and ears open for things like this, and they be stopped one way or the other, because that is not on.
Because these places now will have to wait till the tourism takes off again. I hope they realize that it's a two-way street.
Yep, absolutely.
What message do you have for the public when it comes to tourism?
One request I make is that everybody, just get back to a normal life and frequent the places that you always did, and show the world that we are a resilient nation full of resilient people.
Well, I mean, if we can put up with those 225 in that place there, I'm sure that people of Sri Lanka can do just about anything if they can do that. They have been doing that for 71 years. I don't know. As you know, we've encouraged you to send us your SMSs directly into the studio, 0772 300 305. Thank you for the several ones that have already been received. Also, the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority has a hotline, 1912. Should be coming up on your screens. It's 1912. Call them, and especially if you are having difficulties or challenges in trying to move ahead in terms of the taking advantage of the moratorium that's being made available. 1912 and the Tourism Development Authority will sort you out very soon, right?
Absolutely.
When do you think the Chinese market will kick in?
We are very closely in touch with the mission here, the Chinese mission in Sri Lanka. In fact, we had a meeting on Sunday actually in Negombo, and we are doing our best to get them to relax on their travel advisories, and we are confident that they will take another look at this over the next maybe 2 months, 3 months maybe, or even sooner. Their concern is the emergency that still exists, and the Honourable Minister did mention the other day, actually yesterday, that they might take that emergency out. But what is important is that the reason that the emergency is being maintained is so that they can keep on going with these searches and the arrests and so on and so forth. But so it's not like a widespread emergency, country or whatever for any reason. It's just to make sure that this particular investigation and these type of things can take place.
Do your political masters understand that they need to only indulge in politics and to let professional people like yourselves get on with doing the actual work?
For us, the best way to answer that question is I'm really hoping that they do. And there has been, if I were to just speak about this particular Ministry of Tourism, I'm very glad that we have a minister who understands and who's fully engaged in tourism as an industry. And so that helps.
Right.
And I've been very fortunate in the aviation industry as well to have understanding ministers, during my tenures out there. So.
Like I say, thank you very much for all the messages. Keep sending them. We'll take them as we come along. What about visas? Is it something that you all have considered, doing away with the visa fee?
Yes, this was a program that was put in place pre-incident. We had 39 countries that were lined up for a visa fee exemption. And then, of course, with this issue, we kind of shelved that idea. But the Honourable Minister wants to, reactivate it, resurrect that, and go back online with that entire thought process and the concept. So it's been discussed very aggressively, and I'm pretty sure it will come online. So that would be a further incentive.
What about advertising, global advertising.
Yes, there's a 45-day campaign, and then there's a global campaign, which is a 6-month campaign. The agreements are being, pretty much prepared right now, and I'm pretty certain that the agreements will be signed off early next week, and we'll be off to the races on that.
Good. So, about when do you think you'll start?
They would probably have to prepare, the materials and whatnot. It will probably take another maybe 15 to 20 days, perhaps, post agreement signing. But we will definitely kick off. And JWT, the chosen company, has had a history along with Sri Lanka tourism, if you may, for a few years.
Okay.
So they don't have to particularly go through that learning curve. So I think we'll be quick to market on that.
And do you think that our visitors here, do they sort of appreciate, or has our marketing been good enough for them to be able to appreciate that Sri Lanka, this problem that happened on the 21st of April, is not a Sri Lankan problem, but it is a global terror campaign by various subversive groups?
That's an affirmative. That's a very strong affirmative, simply because the whole world is very empathetic towards Sri Lanka. Whenever, personally, when I engage with the outside world, this is what I hear, and everybody knows that this is not the homegrown variety of terrorism that we've dealt with for 30-odd years, and they understand that it's an international, organization, and they just happen to choose Sri Lanka this time, and there's some backing from there, I'm sure, and it just was unfortunate. I mean, what is a safe country today is not so tomorrow. So that's just the nature of the animal today.
Right. And are you all targeting any specific areas to really promote, or are you promoting the whole gamut, the whole product?
Well, we are going for specific traditional markets and just kind of develop those, because those are the states that are familiar with Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So you have your India, your China, you have Australia, and then of course the UK. And then we're also going after the larger European Union, if you may, because those are where you get your high, spend, clients coming in, the guests coming in. And then we're also going to look at non-traditional markets as a secondary source, because I mean this thing has to be balanced out, because we have 3 or 4 very, very strong markets traditionally, and when something like this happens and when they draw back, we've seen the result. So it would be nice to have a nice spread globally.
Good. And the figures, this is all about the numbers, isn't it?
Of course.
Because Sri Lanka has got location on its side. So the figures, what are our hotels doing now? Out of Colombo, maybe.
Colombo is looking at about a 35% across the board. Outside is not as much, but the numbers are very slowly picking up. The forward bookings are in place. There have been no cancellations according to the airlines. So no cancellations as of now, going forward. So these are all good indicators. And like I said, we will top 2 million this year. Based on the trajectory that it's going on right now. So those are that. But here again, we are looking at volume, not financial stability per se. So that will take a little bit longer. So, but the main thing is to bring the people here.
Right. Do you want to take, because many questions about this registration process. Do you want to tell us how?
Yes, please. If I may just reach out to the. I just want to get this right. Okay. So the documents for initial registration with the Tourism Development Authority would be the deed or lease agreement, a business registration, approved building plan from the local authority, trade license from the relevant local authority, a certificate of conformity, I believe that's for the building itself, the structure, environmental protection license, the public liability insurance, and fire protection. This would be the basic information that is necessary. Now, I understand that there have been a lot of problems with regard to deeds, and we are actively looking into the possibility of looking for an alternate form of documentation, or completely doing away with it, because we are actually licensing.
The incidence of fraud.
Yes, of course. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but we're trying to figure out a mechanism that would ease some of this pain in the registration process.
And is there a need for the local police to get involved? Or?
No. Not to my knowledge, anyway.
No, right.
No, yeah.
Okay. So basically, your message is quite simple. The Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority is here to help, and help you will. And that the product Sri Lanka is jolly well the same.
Pretty much.
And
pretty much.
of course, Sri Lanka is open for business. And
Absolutely. Product has not changed.
Yeah.
Country has not changed. There was just one incident that shook us all, but it's it happened, but you can't live and dwell in that all day into the future. So it's just business as always, life as always. We just have to keep going.
So any plans at all from the Tourism Development Authority to do anything not special, but something out of sympathy, one-off, to help the various families that have been affected by injuries and even death?
The government has taken measures. They took measures almost immediately, and there has been financial, compensation, and I believe there has even been some counseling programs that have been put in place by, not particularly by the government, but there have been volunteer organizations that have come forth.
Indeed, yes.
And then we have movements like Love Sri Lanka by the industry that's promoting tourism on their own, apart from the Source Sri Lanka, the official slogan, if you may. And then there's another movement called Positive Sri Lanka by concerned citizens who want to actually assist not only the tourism industry, but also the commercial, business entities like the singers and the soft lodges or whatever that sell these retail goods, because a lot of these people brought in inventory for the holidays, and they get stuck. They're stuck with the inventory that they've paid for. So there are some discount packages going on, and we're trying to see how we can assist them to promote that type of venture as well.
Johanne Jayaratne, thank you very much for having given up your time in this evening to come on Newsline and share your message. It's a positive message, and I hope to hear more and more good news from you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Faraz.
It's a great pleasure. News First is ever willing and ready
Thank you very much.
to help the country, to help the people. That's the way it was on Newsline Prime this evening. Have a great evening. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy Product Sri Lanka, and of course, stay safe and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukut Ali.